bullshit-o-meter, and I'm trying to come up with a way to convey to the American people just how obvious it is that the government never warned anybody about this massive implosion of their banking system. The sheriff's departments and the state police and your district attorney's offices and your county attorney's offices and your mayors and your state representatives and your your governors and your congressmen and your senators and your presidente, and the Secret Service, the Postal Inspection Service, the IRS. None of these sorry sacks of garbage warned the American people that Wall Street and the gangster banksters were robbing the living hell out of the national economy. Stop and think about it, folks. Who is it that warned you? Who is it that said, hey, they're robbing the living hell out of all the pension systems? Hey, they're robbing the living hell out of the Federal Depositors Insurance Corporation's insurance fund. Who warned you that the gangster banksters were getting you to sign elaborate lease contracts? See that? The bullshit-o-meter is telling everybody the truth. You see? Lease contracts for your homes. You didn't get loaned any money to buy a house on a mortgage. It's an elaborate scheme involving patented and copywritten fraud forms, getting you to think that you borrowed money to buy a home. No money changed hands. They took your installment lease contract that you signed at escrow and they sold it into the investment pools, into the securitized mortgage investment bundles known as subprime mortgage-backed securities. It's just that simple, folks. They robbed the living holy crap out of the national financial system, including Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and the FHA and the Farmers Home Administration and the Federal Home Loan Bank Board, Goldman Sachs, Merrill Lynch. Merrill Lynch is the gang where the FDIC insurance funds are invested on Wall Street. These big Wall Street investment houses, this is where all of your local county, village, town, city, state, and federal government revenues, it's all invested on Wall Street. It's a big gambling casino. How many times is your state senator and your U.S. congressman and your U.S. senator and the Oval Office? How many times has the Oval Office and the Department of Homeland Security and the director of the FBI told you about this giant gambling casino called Wall Street in New York City, Manhattan, Kings County, right there up the street from Preet Bharara's office? Look at that. The bullshit-o-meter didn't even register. No red light went off or nothing. You see, I'm telling you all the truth. The facts are the facts. You see, ladies and gentlemen, in 1965, Lyndon Baines Johnson, just a few short months after they splattered John Kennedy all over Dallas, he penned into law the Coinage Act of 1965, permanently taking the United States off of the silver standard. And then Richard Nixon and the boys finished up the job just a few short years later and permanently took away from the American people their gold and silver backed money, their constitutional money. Read the section 10 of the first article of your Constitution. I dare you. Look, no red light. The bullshit-o-meter is revealing to the world that I'm telling you the truth. Article 1, Section 10 of your Constitution requires a gold and silver and actually copper-based monetary system. No state, none of them, not a single state will make anything other than gold or silver coin legal tender in the payment of debt. That's the U.S. Constitution. The bullshit-o-meter reveals that I am telling everybody the truth. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what's the significance of fiat scrip? Bills of credit that are more commonly known as FRNs, Federal Reserve Notes. Well, the reality is they're sort of like S&H green stamps. The reality is they're sort of like a food coupon, or, coupons that you can use down at the supermarket. They're printed up, endlessly on paper. Like Ben Bernanke and Hank Snow and Alan Greenspan and Janet Yellen have been doing by printing up never-ending tsunamis and rivers and avalanches of quantitative sleazing bucks. Look at that. The bullshit-o-meter didn't go off. I'm telling you the truth. It's scrip. S-C-R-I-P. And then they've got this other way to imagineer money. They just enter a few keystrokes in some digital numerical code into a computer, and they mark up the accounts. And that's a verbatim quote from Ben Bernanke. Jon Stewart of Comedy Central runs a little video entitled The Big Bank Theory. The Big Bank Theory. And Ben Bernanke admits it. I mean, right on, videotape, admitting that they mark up the accounts and that they're printing. Remember that. Printing money, just like comic books are printed, just like those lottery tickets that everybody's addicted to. Did I say lottery tickets? The state lottery tickets. They print those up. Let's see, what else do they? Oh, they print up the girly magazines. All that smut, that's all printed up. And what else do they print? Oh yeah, they print the bubblegum comics, and they print money right from the thin air. Right out of nothing. They print up endless rivers and tsunamis of what they call Federal Reserve notes. Look at that, boy. The old bullshit-o-meter is telling you I'm being honest here. And then they use this fake economic model, this fake economic system, this fake economic racket, and they go to New York, Albany, New York, Kings County, Manhattan, New York, Eric Schneiderman, Elliot Spitzer, Preet Barajas. They go right down there in old New York City, right up the street from the World Trade Centers there, and they gamble in the big casino called Wall Street with Merrill Lynch and Lehman Brothers and, Citibank and Goldman Sachs and the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and the Bank of International Settlements, and the World New York, Kings County, Manhattan, New York, Eric Schneiderman, Elliot Spitzer, Preet Barajas. They go right down there in old New York City, right up the street from the World Trade Centers there, and they gamble in the big casino called Wall Street with Merrill Lynch and Lehman Brothers and, Citibank and Goldman Sachs and the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and the Bank of International Settlements and the World Bank, and they speculate. They speculate with the quantitative easing script. That the bullshitometer is telling you, I'm being honest. It's not going off. They've created this entire massive economic con job, this economic racket, and they endlessly gamble at the casinos on Wall Street. They invest all your city, town, village, county, and state pension revenues. They invest all that money they collect in the courts. They invest all that money from taxes on your cars, your land, your school taxes. Look at that. Boy, the old bullshitometer's not going on. And here's one that you'll find really interesting. Up in New York, they bought up huge amounts of natural resources. The treasure. The treasure, look at that, the bullshitometer's not going on. The treasure that's in the ground. They call it parkland. The Adirondack parks, all those mountains of extremely valuable rare earth materials and extremely valuable metals and extremely valuable uranium and thorium and monazite and all the extremely valuable industrial rare earth materials. The state buys it up from the big paper companies, Finch Prine, International Paper, and then using the fake fiat paper currencies, all of the taxpayers of the state of New York pay to the government, all the counties, all the cities and towns. The state of New York Environmental Conservation Department pays full real estate and school and ad valorem taxes on all that parkland. In other words, that quantitative easing printed out of the thin air money that, they mark up and give you that paycheck with, or the electronic deposit, they immediately tax everybody in New York to pay for all those parkland tax bills, and they're assessed at 100% of the marketable value of the real estate. In other words, every single county in New York that has parkland that is located in it, the taxpayers of the whole state are buying them off. They're paying full tax values for state land. They don't do that on state highways. They don't do that on state-owned right-of-ways and state-owned and county-owned roads. Those are removed from the tax rolls. And the United States forest system, the wilderness preservation con job, the racket, the United States government doesn't pay full tax assessment value and taxes to the localities on federal parklands. And no other state's doing this from what I understand. I could be wrong. If anybody else has information that the states other than New York are doing this, please contact me and let me know. Because you see, ladies and gentlemen, how this works is they take all of those tax collections that they pay on all this state parkland, and they pay it to the localities, the counties, and the cities, and then they invest it on Wall Street. You see in the racket here now, folks? Every bit of the energy and the effort and the sweat and the tears, the human initiative that is the backing for these fake currency transactions. Look at that, the red light didn't go off. You see, they took the gold and the silver and the copper right after they murdered John Kennedy. Still didn't go off. They took away the gold and the silver and they gave you paper. And every last nickel and dime of this fake currency that they collect in revenues, the government collects, they invest it on Wall Street. It all gets invested at Wall Street. And what is it for? Well, it's for the pensions, it's for the retirements, and it's for the dental insurance and the medical insurance and the paychecks and the cars and the trucks and those fancy jobs for all those bureaucrats, all the people that work for the government, like the Secret Service agents and the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's offices and the U.S. Attorney General's offices and the senators and the congressmen and the state legislators and your county sheriffs and your village and town and city police officers and all those people that work in the President of the United States offices and go on vacation endlessly in Air Force One and Air Force Two with all those escorts. You know, they spend $4 or $5 million reserve notes on a vacation, and it's just on all this printed out of nothing, imagineered, fake script. Look at that. The old bullshit-o-meter is not going off. Now here's the point of this video. When can you remember anybody in the government warning you or trying to stop this giant financial racket from feasting and preying on the working class people of the United States? Bullshit-o-meter ain't going off. Who tried to stop it? Who tried to shut it down? Who tried to warn the public that they're being robbed like, oh my freaking God, are you being robbed? Who tried to do it? Name it. Go ahead. Tell the guy sitting next to you. Tell the lady sitting next to you. Who is it that tried to warn you about all this? Was it the government agents that are supposed to be serving and protecting you? Yeah, boy, the red light didn't go off. Excuse me, folks. Who warned you? Was it the Federal Depositors Insurance Corporation? The FDIC borrows money from the banks. The FDIC invests the insurance fund with the bankers on Wall Street. The FDIC is part of the cancer. Look at that. Boy, the red light did not go off. No red light went off. The Federal Depositors Insurance Corporation is a pack of rat, stinking, bastard liars. They aid and abet the gangster banksters robbing this nation. That's what they do. They don't do anything. They're just like Dan Skelos' son that got one of those no-show-up, do-nothing jobs, where Dan Skelos' son got paid off to do nothing. Look at that. The old bullshit-o-meter didn't go off. Now this message is to Preet Bharara and all the 3%ers, the constitutionalists and the oath keepers in New York. You know, New England. Who is it precisely that exposed how Albany, who is driving the bus, Albany's running Manhattan. Albany is policing Wall Street. Albany is in this up to their eyeballs. Andrew Cuomo and Eric Schneiderman are in this up to their eyeballs. Look at that. No red lights going on. You know how Preet Bharara says, stay tuned? You've got a septic tank, a cesspool, and a very big one, full of huge amounts of sewage that's enabling and allowing and covering up and whitewashing and lying about the gambling casinos of New York. And they're just as bad, they're worse than what's going on in Vegas. They're worse than what's going on in Jersey, in Atlantic City. These are the worst, lousy, stinking casinos in the world. And that would be the New York Stock Exchange. Because the entire fiasco is being financed on this engineered, imagineered, made up fake Federal Reserve note paper crap system. Wow, look at that. The red light didn't go off. And the reason the regulators and the police and the government, who are supposed to protect and serve you, say nothing, their pensions, that's how they get funded. That's where their paychecks come from. This is where they get their dental insurance, their health insurance. This is how they finance everything in their lives. By idly standing by, see nothing, hear nothing, and say nothing. Now I'm going to tell you what, here's a little secret. You know, the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Defense and the President of the United States office and the sheriffs and the state police and everybody that cares about America, they all tell you that if you see something, say something. That's all I've been doing for over 3 decades. I exposed their land speculation scheming all over America. Repeat, I exposed, watch the red light, I exposed their land speculation scheming and swindling in real estate all over the United States. I've done it on a massive scale. Look it up. Wildcat, Ghost, Paper, Phantom, Red Flag, Illegal, Unrecorded, Felonious, Colonious. I've been exposing the real estate scheming and scamming at the very heart, the epicenter of this giant mortgage-backed securities racket. Because you see, ladies and gentlemen, watch the red light. You can't do a subprime mortgage-backed securities racket without the real estate deal that it all hinges on. This is crime scene forensics, folks. You can't run a giant mortgage swindling con without the real estate swindling con that enables it. Now, why has nobody said anything? Well, gee, let's see. All the big timber companies that sell the 2x4s and the 2x6s and all the lumber that they build these condominiums and townhomes out of, all the roofing suppliers, all the let me get a drink here, man. I'm dying. I'm gonna get me a drink of water here. Excuse me. All the real estate companies, all the big trucking companies and the unions, all the great big real estate brokers who are, you know, owned by the bankster gangsters in Wall Street, all the people selling the carpeting, the grass, the paint, the sheetrock, the screws, the nails, the cement, every last screw, bolt, nut, everything, the cabinets, the washers and the dryers, everything it takes to build speculation houses and speculation condominiums and speculation townhomes and speculation high-rise luxury condominiums and speculation high-rise resort hotels and casinos. That's Mr. Donald Trump. Donald Trump will explain it to you. And get a hold of Hillary and Bill Clinton and talk to them about how you build subdivisions and you rob the Madison Guaranty Savings and Loan. Come on, Bill Clinton. Come on, Hillary. You want to talk about it? When was the last time Hillary Clinton warned you about this giant real estate swindling, con job, and fraud that was going to loot the entire nation's financial system? How about it, Hillary Clinton? Want to talk about it, Madam Hillary? And same with Barack Obama and Joe Biden, who got financed by Goldman Sachs. No red light going off. Who got financed by Citicorp and got financed by Countrywide and got financed by Wells Fargo. And I can go on all day long how Barack Obama and Joe Biden got financed by Wall Street, just like the rest of the elections that go on in this country. They've bought the entire system with printed up out of the thin air fiat Federal Reserve notes and those little keystrokes that they mark into the computers. Who's warned you about all this, ladies and gentlemen? Your county sheriff's department? How about your village and city police? State police? Did the state police tell you? Or did your U.S. Marshals? Or down at the post office, did they put up those warning signs that the nation was being looted by their gangster bankster buddies down on Wall Street? No red light. Who warned you? Who told you about it? Who told you about their massive real estate scheming and scamming all over the nation with their red flag, wildcat, ghost, paper, phantom, toxic, zombie, toxic, felonious, colonious? Who warned you about it all? Their giant real estate scheming and scamming. Congressman Kevin Brady, let's see, Tom Barton, Kay Bailey Hutchinson, Alan Barb Sadler, the Montgomery County Attorney's Office, the Houston Office of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Houston United States Attorney's Office, the Houston Chronicle, the Houston Post, the Conroe Courier, Nelda, Luce, Radabelle Blair. Come on, Nelda, let's talk about it. Who warned you, Marcus Winberry? The city attorney for Conroe, Texas. Who warned the nation about all these real estate schemes and scams? Go ahead, I dare you. Go on the internet and type in bank looting, real estate, swindle, toxic zombie developments. Go ahead and do some research and find out who warned you. Go ahead and do some research and find out who blew the whistle, who's been blowing the whistle like crazy on all these patented and copywritten forms and software platforms, these computer electronic payment systems that MERS and electronic data systems, EDS, and Merrill Lynch and Citibank and WAMU and Taylor Bean and Whitaker and the Federal Reserve and all your banks and all your counties, your tax assessors and collectors, those copywritten, patented software platforms they use to ring in the new year. Ka-ching, ka-ching down on Wall Street so that they can go gamble at the casino. Who warned you about it all? Now, ladies and gentlemen, just for the record, I want you to know that the bullshit-o-meter has not gone off a single time. And I've got it set to a pretty low frequency here. And you'll notice that the red light has not gone off. Who warned you? Who was the original whistleblower? You can go to the Catbird's Nest. The Catbird's Nest and look up Silencing the Whistleblowers. The Great Texas Bank Job. The Great Texas Bank Job. I'll say it one more time. The Paper Land Con. Felonious, Colonious, Polonius. Western Bank. American Title. Land Fraud American Style. Who warned you? Who's been blowing the bloody whistle on this for over 30 years? Has it been Donald Trump? Or has it been Hillary Clinton? Or has it been Rubio? Or Rand Paul and Ron Paul? Has it been Cruz? Mitt Romney? Who's it been? Dick Cheney? Ronald Reagan? George H? George W. Bush? Who blew the whistle on it? Now, this is the final and comment to the Federal Depositors Insurance Corporation. Open all your books. Open all your books on the Western National Bank. Quit hiding and covering up and lying. You're obstructing justice. You're engaged in misprision of felonies. You're covering up for a very large racketeering enterprise. And that's your giant ass Wall Street casino operations. The Federal Depositors Insurance Corporation is deeply, deeply, deeply involved and perpetrating and unjustly enriching themselves playing the Wall Street casino gambling game with their monopoly Federal Reserve note system where they mark it up on accounts. And by the way, you see, when they mark up all those accounts, like Ben Bernanke and Janet Yellen do with quantitative easing, all of those software programs are all patented and copywritten. How about that, Ken Dost and Carol? You know, patented and copywritten software programs that make all of this possible through electronic data systems and many others like Cisco and let's see, like WordPress and let's see, like Google. Oh God, Google's not involved with this, and Facebook and all these other giant computer corporations like Lenovo and Compaq and Sony and all the big computer, you know, like I don't know, Asus, IBM, my God almighty, Panasonic, all of those software platforms that make all of this possible through their supercomputers, their beast supercomputers, it's all patented and copywritten, Ken Dost. All of it. And this is how they run their phony baloney bullshit gambling game, and I said that correctly. See, the bullshitometer did not go off. They're phony baloney gambling casino games that are being controlled and operated and run from upstate New York, Albany. Watch that old bullshitometer didn't go off. How about that? In Kings County, Manhattan, New York, New England, down in the big rotten apple. Because you see, folks, trillions upon trillions upon trillions upon trillions disappeared magically right down the street from the World Trade Centers and World Trade Center 7 and World Trade Center 6. The financial records associated with the giant looting of this country and the massive, secretive, clandestine black operations financing of the CIA's Mujahideen, Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and the ISIS were being operated out of the World Trade Centers. Isn't that interesting? And it was all being done on patented and copywritten computer software programs. Ain't that interesting, Ken Dost? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm leaving it right there. There's a lot more to come, so stay tuned. You can get on the phone there to old Preet Baraha and tell him to stay tuned, because we're not even close to being done with exposing how the Federal Depositors Insurance Corporation are material witnesses to the largest crime scene in human history. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to leave it right there. And as always, hasta la vista. We will be back.